Hello, I'm BMillzebub and welcome to my channel. As I'm sure you all know, it's quite common for atheists to do a video answering questions that theists have for us. I tried finding some questions to answer, but got quickly annoyed by questions that either misrepresented or strawmanned atheists and atheism. So I went to a friend on YouNow who happens to be a Christian and has a genuinely inquisitive mind. And looking at his questions, it seems my trust that he wouldn't strawman or misrepresent us was well placed. So let's take a look at his first question. And by the way, the voice you're going to be hearing asking the questions is my friend Karsten.
How has your unbelief been falsely portrayed by the general public?
My experience actually is that the media and religions falsely portray unbelief more so than the general public. If anything, the general public doesn't really understand the concept of atheism. So I'll answer this question in two different parts. First, I will discuss where I see atheism falsely portrayed in religion and media. So I think most people get what I'll call their understanding of atheism from the pulpit. And a quick search on YouTube will bring up a long list of preachers referring to atheism as being a disbelief in God rather than the lack of belief that it is. I know it sounds kind of like splitting hairs, but it's really not, because one, disbelief is active and lack of belief is passive. Another false portrayal of atheism is that we are amoral or stealing morality from Christianity. Obviously, neither is true. Now, not every atheist is a moral nihilist like me, which means I don't believe morals are universal. But atheists taken as a whole are not amoral or stealing from religion. A problem calling atheists amoral can cause is having members of society see us as a dangerous threat. I mean, just look at Saudi Arabia, where out atheists are, from a legal standpoint, viewed as terrorists. Now let's take a look at the media. And I'll leave out anything that has a specific religious agenda like Living Waters, Answers in Genesis, or EWTN, even though those sources do get atheism very wrong on a consistent basis. But anytime Piers Morgan brings up religion, he tends to also bring up how he's a good Catholic boy. Fox News certainly gives no love to atheists. You remember Bill O'Reilly talking to then president of American Atheists, David Silverman, and his tide goes in, tide goes out gaffe. The last thing anyone on that network is considerate towards atheists. Let's move on to how I experience the understanding most of the public has about atheism now. Like I said earlier about how atheism is portrayed from the pulpit, atheism is often talked about as a disbelief in God when in reality it's the lack of belief. My impression is that most religious people believe atheism is an active disbelief in God. And in the minds of some believers, this kind of thinking can create an us versus them mentality. Another thing I've experienced, and some people have actually told me this, is that I must be miserable without a God belief, despite all the evidence to the contrary. I am sleeping more restfully. I am dealing with feelings of depression significantly less in my life, and I am no longer dealing with issues of self-hate that stemmed from my former religious beliefs. So let's move on to question number 2, shall we?
What are some things Christians can do to better understand and dialogue with skeptic friends?
Oh, they could do a great many things to better understand and dialogue with atheists. But it should be said that not all atheists are skeptics. There are some atheists out there who believe in all manner of bunk like astrology, homeopathy, and even some spirituality. I'm just putting that out there. But with this in mind, the number one thing that theists in general, not just Christians, can do is to actually listen to what an atheist has to say and try to understand our point of view without retreating back into your personal beliefs about us or what you heard about us from the pulpit. Another thing you can do is actually ask us questions and try not to strawman us with your question, because that's quite possibly the easiest way to piss us off. But if you do strawman us with your question and it comes from a place of genuine ignorance, explain that. And I'm sure whatever atheist you are talking to is going to understand. And as much as you may want to, don't proselytize to us. Just please don't. It's very likely that we've heard whatever apologetic you're about to use before, assuming we haven't used it before ourselves. And try to understand that most atheists were once believers like you. We didn't just upend our personal beliefs on a whim. A lot of time, thought, and research will very likely have gone into us abandoning our beliefs. So just keep that in mind when you're speaking to an atheist. Most of us deconverted from something else. So let's take a look at question number 3.
What is something you admire about evangelical Christians as a whole, or a certain evangelical person?
I'm not going to lie to you. There's really not much I admire about evangelical Christianity. Look at it from my perspective. This is a religious group that tends to hold fast and blind to a belief in the face of evidence. I don't have percentages in front of me, but many evangelicals reject evidence of evolution, evidence that a global flood on a biblical scale never happened. There's just so much that's taken on faith rather than looking at the evidence and coming to a conclusion from that. That's just not something that I can admire. And even at my most religious, I sought evidence to back up my beliefs. Evidence, not faith, which probably is part of what pushed me away from religion.
What is your overall impression of evangelical Christians?
This is a question that I'm not really willing to answer as it is. I try not to think or speak in terms of the person in a religion, but in terms of the religious beliefs and practices themselves. But if you were to ask me about my overall view of evangelical Christianity itself, the answer would be not good. My view of evangelical Christianity is not good at all. Alright everybody, I'm only about halfway through the list of questions my friends sent me, and I don't want to burn you all out. So I'm going to stop here and we'll pick up where we left off in my next video. If you enjoyed this one, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and click the little notification bell to get notified whenever I post a new video. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter, link down below, to keep up with all my comings and goings. I'll also be posting my friend Carson's socials, so you can give him a follow as well. Take it easy, everyone, and I'll see you all on the next one.